Hello, my name is Eric Choi, and this is a presentation based on my Library 201H project that I call Smartphone Addiction and Academic Performance. In our present society, teenagers are glued to their phones. Companies like Apple and Samsung are pressing releases like screen time and other measures to keep your smartphone use in check. But why? Previous studies have collected information concerning teenagers and their smartphone addictions. Some of these studies refer to academic success and how some teenagers performed when they were addicted to their phones and when they were not addicted to their phones. My analysis reports on the obliging idea that teenagers' academic success gets impacted because of their smartphone habits. But why is this so important? In this time and age, everything is related to technology. We as a society use technology for education, entertainment, and even base our entire careers on technology. Smartphones specifically are a necessity for many teenagers around the globe. So it is important to realize that there are consequences to your academic performance that can then lead to your physical and mental health deteriorating. First, I'll be going over the research question. Then I'll be moving on to my points of background towards smartphone addiction and why teenagers get addicted in the first place. Then I'll be going on to my main point, then talking about the effects of smartphone addictions, then how smartphone addiction affects one's academic performance, then going on to the answer to my research question, then going on to works cited, my conclusion, and finally the Q&A. My research question for this project is, does smartphone addiction affect teenagers' academic performance? By the end of my presentation, I would like to answer this question. Now moving on to my next point, I want to go over the first background of smartphone addiction and how it starts in the first place. Teenagers get addicted in the first place because smartphones are practical. Most teenagers have smartphones and are always staring at them at home, at school, and everywhere they go. Even as a college student, I feel a sort of dependency for my smartphone as I use it so much in my daily life. It becomes a necessity and controls a lot of your life. Another directly related reason why teenagers get addicted to their smartphones is because smartphones have the ability to download apps, specifically video games. Video games by themselves are known to have addictive properties and are talked about in many studies, but combined with smartphones and its effect with addiction, it poses as a very easy way to get addicted very quickly. Other factors can be social media and messaging platforms and ways to socialize with your friends. These are all ways that teenagers get addicted in the first place and how smartphone addictions first start. Now I would like to go on to my main point, which is how does smartphone addiction affect one's academic performance? As you can see from the video, smartphones have so many useful features that we use in our everyday lives. We start to get used to using them every day and start to depend on them. It becomes such a habit and necessity that we do not notice things around us. Now moving on to the effects of smartphone addiction. The first effect that I found is that smartphone addiction affects one's academic success. An example that I found was research from a Pakistani study that was made in an attempt to see if smartphone addiction affects one's academic achievement and performance. The data has been collected from 453 students of a private sector higher education institute of Pakistan through an online questionnaire. The results of the study indicated that both smartphone usage and cyberloafing positively and significantly affects smartphone addiction. The effects of self-regulation was negative, but significant on smartphone addiction and cyberloafing. Moreover, the effects of general self-efficiency on cyberloafing was positive and significant. However, the study found that smartphone addiction has no significant effect on students' academic achievement. The findings actually concluded that smartphone addiction decreases academic performance of students as students lower their focus on academic learning and get addicted to smartphones for cyberloafing. So we can see that the study shows that smartphone addiction doesn't affect academic achievement, but it actually affects academic performance. So moving on to the next effect of smartphone addiction, which is smartphone addiction distracts teenagers and hinders their ability to concentrate. So the persistent notifications, the buzzing, the ping, or the beeps of your smartphone can really distract you and keep you from thinking deeply when you're doing an important task like doing homework or working. The smartphone interrupting your quiet moments and the times when you're concentrating really hurts your ability to concentrate and hurts your ability to do those tasks like homework and working overall. The next effect is that smartphone addiction increases loneliness and depression. So from logic, you would really think that social media and messaging platforms would help decrease loneliness and depression. But a study from 2014 found a correlation between high school social media usage and depression and anxiety. Users, most especially teens, tend to compare themselves unfavorably with their peers on social media, promoting feelings of loneliness and depression. The next effect of smartphone addiction is that smartphone addiction fuels anxiety. So one researcher in 2015 found that the mere presence of a phone in the workplace tends to make people more anxious and perform poorly on given tasks. The heavier a person's phone use, the greater the anxiety they experience. This is basically saying that the more the person picks up their phone and the more the person uses their phone, the greater the anxiety they find or that is fueled. The next effect of smartphone addiction is that smartphone addiction increases stress. Using a smartphone for homework, for work, often means that work overlaps with your personal life. You feel the pressure to always go back and forth between your smartphone and your actual work, so it causes stress and makes you procrastinate and makes you push your work to the deadline. The last effect that I found of smartphone addiction is that smartphone addiction hurts one's physical and mental health. I have already stated about distractions hinders their ability to concentrate, loneliness, depression, anxiety, stress. These are all factors of mental health and all hurt a person's mental health in the big picture. And hurting one's physical health is a direct correlation to mental health because loneliness, depression, anxiety, these all cause people to try to hurt themselves, try to kill themselves, and these are all factors that relate to the physical health of a person. And so these are all the effects of smartphone addiction that I found from the project. The next point that I wanted to go into is how to break smartphone addiction. So I've talked about how people first get smartphone addiction. I've talked about what smartphone addiction does to people, and now I want to talk about how people can actually break smartphone addiction and get away from it. So the first step is that you must recognize the trigger or reason why you are so attached to your smartphone. There might be multiple reasons, there might be one reason. Some of the reasons could be social media, you're too attached to social media, you're attached to messaging apps, you're attached to video games on your smartphone. You could be attached to many aspects of your smartphone, but your first step should be to actually find a reason why you are so addicted to your smartphone. The second reason is you should find a substitute activity to do instead of the trigger reason of why you are so addicted to your smartphone. You could play sports, you could go outside in the park, you could do all these things instead of to replace the time that you spent on your smartphone. This will help actually staying away from your smartphone and actually converting the time that you used to use on your smartphone into better, more productive time. And the third and final step is to recognize any underlying problems that may support your compulsive behavior. In other words, I'm basically talking about how you should find any problems that might also factor into your smartphone addiction. This could be other addictions like alcohol, and other psychological addictions. It could be mental disorders. It could be all these different things. But you should try to recognize any further problems that could help you actually break the smartphone addiction. Following all these steps should be an easy way to break your smartphone addiction. But there are other factors, so you should always keep those into consideration. So now, drawing to the end of my presentation, we are going to go over the answer to my research question. So just to go over my research question in the first place, my research question was, does smartphone addiction affect teenagers' academic performance? And the short answer to that is yes. Smartphone addiction in teenagers directly affects their academic success and performance. But the true answer is more complex than that, because academic success and performance is all it's not able to be defined. So it's much more complex than that. But then The simple answer will be that yes, smartphone addiction in teenagers does actually affect their academic success and performance, and leads to other factors like mental and physical health effects. Um, so yes, that's my answer to my presentation. Just to go over quickly, these are some of the works cited citations that I used. Some of the scholarly articles that I used for my project. These are just 4 out of many that I used. And now finally to my conclusion. In conclusion, while my presentation exhibits teenagers and their susceptibility to their smartphones, elementary students, college students, and adults are not safe from smartphone addiction. We as a society should take some time to close our laptops, turn off our TVs, and shut down our smartphones and take a look around the world. Our faces are always bound to screens, so we should take the opportunity to leave electronics behind and focus on our goals, ideals, and dreams. Thank you. Now going on to Q&A.